Hello and welcome to Business Talk, brought to you by the Northern Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce. I'm Britt Scarce with West Banco. I'm your host, and today here in studio we have Dave Hatter with Intrust IT here to talk to us a little bit about Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Happy to be here, Britt. Looking forward to it.
Well, it's unfortunate that your job is needed, that there's that many people out there that want to come and steal information. They want to make people's lives difficult. There are so many different ways that people can, get your information and, take over your identity and, ruin your operation and that sort of thing. So tell us a little bit about Cybersecurity Month and kind of what we're trying to make people aware of here.
Yeah, everything you said is absolutely true. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people still don't believe it until it happens to them. So since it is October and National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, I have some great horror stories I can tell you here.
Great.
But National Cybersecurity Awareness Month was started by DHS back in 2004, and it's an annual event really designed to raise awareness about the issues, and also through a variety of government agencies and some of the big tech players out there, they put out a lot of really useful tips and helpful information that will help you and your organization be a lot more secure if you will take their advice to heart and follow it.
If you actually do something.
Yeah, you gotta actually do it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of the things to be afraid of.
Sure.
So one of them are the phishing, vishing, and smishing scams. So let's talk about what those are.
Yeah, this is probably the most prevalent thing. And one of the things that I think is difficult for people is you can look around out there and find all kinds of different metrics and statistics about the threat landscape and what's really going on, and some will conflict with others, and so it's really hard to know what to take to heart. But I will say, not only from practical experience working in the field, but also if you look at information the FBI has put out, if you look at information the big tech companies are putting out, phishing continues to be a giant problem. And you'll hear people use the term smishing or vishing. So phishing originally came up with this idea, I'm going to cast a line out generally via email and reel people in. And, because more people are using text now, and you've also still have voice phone calls that are a possibility, they'll come at you. And this is one of the things that people don't understand. When they say, I'm too small, I don't have anything worth stealing, I got nothing to hide. Your money is worth stealing. They will steal your money either directly if you make it easy or indirectly through identity theft and that sort of thing. And phishing continues to be one of the leading ways. The phish attack itself might not be the way they get you, but it's the downstream things that result from that. So yeah, it continues to be a gigantic problem. And unfortunately, for many people who are become victims of it, it's pretty avoidable in most cases. You know?
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but hopefully I don't have some major problem with my phone or anything like that. But I get texts all the time that say, "Hey, your bank account with whatever bank," which I don't even have an account with, and fix the problem by clicking here. And it's like, obviously I ignore those, and delete them.
Well, Britt, you hit on a key part of all of this, and one of the best defenses against all of this, you can take the technology out of it entirely, is just a healthy dose of skepticism and awareness that A, these attacks are a thing, B, you will become a victim eventually if you don't take these things seriously and take some simple precautions against it, and C, anything can be spoofed. That's one of the big problems that non-technical people also underestimate. Much of the technology that makes all of this work, the underlying technology, goes back to the late 60s or early 70s when security was not ever thought of. No one envisioned how this would all be used someday. So there's a constant battle of, I've got this ancient technology and I'm trying to layer security on top of it. Now our entire society is driven by this. And unfortunately, as a result, while you can do all kinds of things that will vastly improve your security, in many cases that costs money and creates friction. Companies don't want to do that for obvious reasons, and thus then, fall prey to this stuff. So spoofing is one of the, I think, most misunderstood things. It's very easy to send an email from literally any account I want. Now, again, there are ways to know it did not originate from that account, but not to the naked eye, not to the average person. Same thing for a phone number. It's very easy to send a text or make a call that appears to have come from a number. I'm sure there are people who will watch this that will have seemingly received a call from themselves, for example, right?
Yeah.
So, it's the spoofing that makes all of this much more difficult because it gives it an air of legitimacy. And then to your point, in many cases, they're just carpet bombing, right? I'm gonna send out 100 million texts, and there's going to be some small percentage of people who won't pay enough attention, won't stop, won't think about what it's asking. Like, well, this isn't even my bank that's telling me there's a problem with my
Right.
account. They click that link or do whatever it is they're asked to do. And then, unfortunately, the hook has been set and, they're going to get reeled in.
And sometimes they do get, the right bank, and so what I do is it's bad. It's made me skeptical about everything. So I pretty much ignore most of them. And if something does come across that looks like it's from one of the institutions I'm actually doing business with, I pick up the phone and call that institution. I don't do anything with that link they gave me.
And that is the exact right thing to do. Like the IRS just recently warned about smishing attacks, text-based phishing, where the IRS is purporting there's some problem with your account or you've got a fine or whatever, right? Now, one of the first things to keep in mind is almost every government agency says they will not contact you via email or text, at least not initially. But,
Right.
I mean, your approach is the right approach. It's to be skeptical. It's to understand almost anything you get in electronic form can be spoofed, and in many cases, unfortunately, is likely spoofed. And it's to step back. There's this sort of general thinking of stop, think, protect, right? Err on the side of protection. Stop, think about it. Do I do business with this bank? Why would this agency be contacting me? Have I recently shipped something? Like you might get the fake FedEx thing saying a package,
Yeah.
right? And then err on the side of protection. In the nerd business, we call it go out of band, right? Do exactly what you said. Don't reply to the text. Don't reply to the email. Don't click the links. Don't use the numbers they sent you. Any or all of that could be spoofed. It could be malicious, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think you've gotten some sort of electronic message that could be something you need to take action on, then yeah, go out of band. Go to the agency, go to the organization, look up their website, use a number. If it's like your bank, get
Yeah.
your bank statement out and look at the customer service number on the bank statement, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the old days it was trust but verify. Now you can't trust.
Yeah.
You must verify, and that's the way to do it. Stop, take a breath, and then go out of band to figure out, is this actually something I should act on? Don't click the links. Don't download the files. Don't use what they sent you.
Yeah. So I think I might have learned that from you on some other conversation or something,
Well,
but it just
I
makes me
appreciate that.
skeptical. And obviously being around the banking world for so long, I mean, we get a lot of that come through, the banking system, and they're telling people, all of our emails now at most companies say this came from outside the network. So if you're getting an email from the CEO, and it says it's coming from outside the network, and it's saying it should be coming from your CEO's,
Right.
it's not probably your CEO, right?
Probably not. It's probably not your CEO asking you to buy gift cards at Target for an urgent meeting. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But you brought up something I always want to touch on there too, because not only at Intrust, but also like in my spare time, I'm the mayor of Fort Wright.
Okay.
And one of the things we've tried to do there, because of course I'm always on the security thing, is create a culture. And this is something we try to train our customers on, right? It's not just the technology, it's not just the awareness. It's also creating a culture where you feel comfortable. And really, there's even an expectation that if you get something like that, you would stop and go, you know what? I should call the CFO. I should call the CEO. I should at least talk to my supervisor if I get something like that and say, hey, I got this thing. Do you really think this is the CEO? And, going back to putting my mayor's hat on for a second, I've made it very clear I would be much happier if you call my cell phone at 3 o'clock in the morning because there's something like this and you ask me, is this legit? Is this really for me?
Yeah.
And to find out that it's not.
Especially in
then act on
high-profile
it.
situations like that. Yeah.
Then act on it and we end up out a lot of taxpayer money or something.
Yes. Yes.
So it's the awareness, but it's also, again, trying to create a culture in organizations where people feel safe that they can stop and that if an error is made, it's on the side of caution. If a vendor or partner or customer or somebody gets mad because something didn't get paid in a timely fashion or whatever, I would argue you're much better off in the long run as a business than when you find yourself out several $100,000 because someone acted in haste, was afraid to pick up the phone or whatever. So it's really trying to create, imbue that culture with it's okay, A, to be aware, and then B, it's okay to stop and ask and make sure whatever you're being asked to do is a legitimate request.
Yeah. And I know a lot of employers are having, team meetings every so many months telling people, to beware and how to act if, how to, push the little button that says this is a phishing email. And, again, saying, look at what's at the top here. This is coming from outside the organization. So all that training, but, people still in the rush of their workday a lot of times they're like, oh my gosh, I just responded to that, or I just opened that link and it totally looks suspicious now that I've done it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, at that point, it might be too late. I would say if you find yourself in a situation where maybe you were hasty, then your next step ought to be to contact your supervisor and or your IT support, whatever, whether that's an external company like Intrust or that's someone internal, and say, hey, this happened. You should look into this and try to confirm that it's either okay or get in front of whatever is coming next. Because if it's something like a ransomware attack, depending on your technology stack and how quickly you act, you might be able to stop it before
just by unplugging your machine and, shutting it down and everything.
But if you wait, and this is also same kind of thing with any sort of financial fraud that might come up as a result of this. If you think you might be the victim of financial fraud, you need to act immediately. In many cases, if you call your bank, if you call your insurance company, you call your attorney, if people can swing into action quickly, you might be able to recover most, if not all, of whatever funds have been stolen. But the real world story, we had a customer referred to us recently. Unfortunately, business email compromise that started with phishing. They got in, lurked around in their network. This happens all the time. Figured out who they were doing business with, and then found invoice templates, right? Created invoices, sent out what appeared to be legitimate invoices to the victim's customers. And we see this all the time. The customer or the victim, the customers of the victim paid the invoices. And unfortunately, the money went elsewhere because they changed the payment information. So this company is out many hundreds of thousands of dollars. And because it took a while to notice, like, hey, why aren't these customers paying, right?
Yeah.
30 days,
month or
90
two,
days,
yeah.
something like that, not uncommon. It's probably unlikely they're going to recover most of that money. So yeah, if you detect any sort of fraud, you need to act as quickly as possible. Again, probably your first call should be to the bank, freeze the accounts, stop any transactions. And then I would say, hopefully you have insurance, and particularly cyber insurance. That's probably your second call, and then your attorneys.
Yeah.
And you might be able to stave off a lot of the damage from one of these attacks if you're quick.
Isn't that amazing that people are that, if they just take some of this knowledge that they have and just do good things, they would be so successful.
Sadly, you are correct. Yeah, because, there's plenty of opportunities out there in the technology business. It's very difficult to hire people. Yeah, if they would put their efforts towards good, we'd be much better off. But unfortunately, Britt, right now, the pickings are easy. They're making a lot of money in many cases, and a lot of the stuff is coming from offshore, where even if you can identify them, which can be difficult if they're good, there's really no way to prosecute them, right? So what are the consequences? One ransomware gang last year claimed they made $100 million in 1 year. Now think about that. That's significant money.
Yeah.
They're in a foreign country where the government is either in cahoots or at least turns a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Nothing.
Right?
It's gone.
There's really no consequences for them. So, if you have a criminal bent, why wouldn't you do that? And that's another thing I think it's hard for people to really understand is, these are in many cases not like super secret spy types somewhere, that are going through all these elaborate gyrations to steal your money. There are tools readily available that someone can download off the internet and launch all different kinds of attacks. And if you haven't done the most basic things, awareness training, try to create a culture where people feel safe to say, hey, something's not right here, got some real basic tools in place to stop this, you are going to be a victim. It's really just a matter of time. And, don't take my word for it. See what Microsoft, Google, the FBI, DHS, Federal Trade Commission, IRS, what they're all saying about these things.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know that there's a day that goes by that you don't turn on the news and hear some sort of a story about this. Even the credit bureaus have over the years now, Equifax a few years back, they lost, everybody's information pretty much.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate for all of us out here, which then can have that kind of information used to impersonate you for all kinds of different identity theft and such.
That brings me to my other point. You sent some information here, and one of the things that you had highlighted in one of these articles was about the deep fake stuff and how someone can literally take perhaps your CEO's voice and do a deep fake to have a phone call where an employee feels like they're talking to their CEO. This isn't an email. This is them on the phone sounding just like the CEO or the boss saying, go buy this, these gift cards or whatever.
Yeah, I think this is a huge societal problem. And I mean, it's this sort of thing that got me interested in, I've been a nerd my whole career, but I kind of transitioned out of, I tell people I'm a recovering programmer into more of this pure cybersecurity space because of the impact on society, this stuff, right? It's not just some business loses some money or, you lose all your family photos or whatever. It's, our society now is increasingly dependent on technology, especially after the pandemic when everyone had to figure out how to work remotely. And when you think about, for example, the impact on the power grid, right? It's automated. If hackers were able to shut that down and do some sort of serious damage like we did, well, someone did to the uranium enrichment devices there in Iran,
Yeah.
you could have some real impact on society. So this deepfake thing, in my mind, is probably one of the most consequential things that the average person probably isn't that familiar with. And in layman's terms, deepfake is really synthetic media. It's something created entirely from whole cloth or with a little snippet of something from reality, like a photo or a video or some audio.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage folks, look this up. If you've never seen it, the technology is advancing rapidly. MIT did a video about 1.5 years ago. And their whole point was just for people to be aware this is a thing. They took a speech that was going to be given by President Nixon if the moon landing failed. And they turned this into a deepfake video that appears to be him giving the speech that would have been given had the moon landing failed. Go watch it and tell me it doesn't look like Nixon giving this speech in 1969 or, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, that's just one example. It's a very well done example, but that was like 1 year to 1.5 years ago. The technology, the hardware, the software progresses, but the voice fake thing is really, really interesting because there are a couple of cases out there where an elaborate cyber attack was launched. And in one case, a bank in the Middle East, $35 million were stolen, and it involved deepfake audio where phishing emails were sent, voice messages were left that sounded like a director from the bank authorizing this transfer of funds, and consequently the funds were transferred. And if you're not even aware this is a thing, you could go back to what we said before, go out of band. But if there's a message on your phone that sounds like someone you probably aren't going to say, well, that could be a deep fake. I better go call the CFO or something.
Right.
So, yeah, it's extremely critical that people realize this is a thing. And it's not just – this also is not something like you have to be in a Chinese military lab somewhere to pull this off. You can go download software right now off the internet and with a few seconds of audio – create very compelling deepfake audio. Now,
let's not give them any ideas, Dave.
It doesn't work real time, Britt. Like, no, for anyone that's watching this, we're real. We are not. This is not deepfakes at work. But that's another concern of mine. It would be one thing to get some audio and then create something from whole cloth. But as quick as the hardware technology is advancing and the software technology, I don't think it will be very long before you would be able to have a deep fake that is conversational, throw some AI at it. And it wouldn't just be, well, there's a voicemail from the CEO telling me to do X, Y, or Z. You get a live call and it's a computer pretending to be someone else. I mean, that's where we're at in society. And I know it blows people's minds, but don't take my word, go see for yourself. I think you might be shocked. And it's very important for people to understand this is a thing, not only because of the larger impacts on society, but just for you as a business, and for you to protect your assets, your organization, your employees, you need to know about these things.
Wow. Just real quick before we wrap up, what do you think, with it being Cybersecurity Awareness Month, what do you think the top things a business ought to be doing, for this month? Since it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, what kind of steps should they do to either reevaluate what they currently have, or if they already are really vigilant, any steps that they should be taking?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing to do, if you've already got a fairly strong cybersecurity posture, you've got tools, and I'll come back to that in a second. Probably the best thing you could do is have an outside firm come in, do an assessment, see if there's any gaps, because the threat landscape changes constantly. It goes back to a comment you made before. These people are very smart, they're very devious, they're very creative, and they're always trying to figure out ways to circumvent and defeat whatever you've done, right? Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. Maybe have a new set of eyes come in, take a look at what you got, see if there's any obvious holes there. But, a big part of it then again is awareness training. There are companies like KnowBe4 that have really excellent products that will help you test your employees and train your employees. It's creating that culture. And then, especially for smaller businesses where maybe you don't have an IT person, there's some very simple and very inexpensive things you can do. And the top three I would say are A, enforce multi-factor authentication on every account that you can. This isn't just Dave Hatter's opinion or Intrust's opinion. Microsoft and Google, independent of one another, have said multi-factor authentication, sometimes called two-factor authentication or two-step verification, will block 99% of all automated attacks. DHS, NSA, FBI, they've all come out and said turn this on. It's free. Now, sometimes it causes friction, right? You got to get that extra code when you log in that it sends to you via text or something. But that, even if they can guess your password, if they can crack your password, if their password is stolen in a breach from Experian or whatever, right? They still can't log into your account because they need that other code.
Right.
Not bulletproof. There are ways to defeat that, but you're trying to raise the bar and make yourself a harder target. So the bad guys will move on to the softer
They
targets,
want the
right?
easier stuff.
Yeah, they do. I mean, if you want to put it in business terms, they're trying to maximize their return on investment as well, right?
Yeah.
It's evil. It's evil and bad, but that's what they're trying to do too. So you want to make yourself a harder target. MFA. Then I would say also you need a policy and you need to tell people you cannot use the same passwords for work and business or for work and personal accounts. You need to have a strong, unique password for every account. And everyone says, oh, God, Dave, I got too many passwords. I can't do this. So here's the answer. Get a password manager. There are a large number of free or very low-cost, high-quality password managers out there. Magazines like CNET, ZDNet rate these things every year where you have editors and experts who will say, this is the best password manager, right? Go look at those. I like LastPass. We use LastPass. There are plenty of others. Keeper, Dashlane. Install a password manager, and then, Britt, all you got to do is create one really strong password for the password manager, turn on multi-factor authentication for the password manager, then you can use the password manager to create strong passwords for all your other accounts. You don't need to know what they are. You don't need to care what they are. The password manager takes care of that for you.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, the good ones like LastPass, it'll work on your phone, it'll work on a tablet, it'll work on a PC. You have it with you all the time. One strong master password. Longer is better, more complex is better. Multi-factor authentication, especially on the password manager, critical. You got to do that. But if you just do those three things, and then the simple stuff you always hear, you got to install software updates, right? Whether it's your phone, your tablet, your smart coffee maker, whatever, the software in there needs the security fixes the vendors put out. And then, some type of antivirus / anti-malware software. We like SentinelOne. It's a very advanced artificially intelligence driven product. There are others like it out there. But even if you use the free antivirus from Microsoft, right? That's free. There are low-cost solutions. The software updates are free. Everything I've laid out here is either free or minimalistic cost. And if you just do those things, again, nothing's foolproof, it's going to make your business, your organization, your family, yourself a much more difficult target. And in most cases, unless you're being explicitly targeted because you have some trade secrets they want to steal, they're going to move on, right?
Yeah.
Just those are, there's plenty of other stuff you could do, plenty of other stuff you should do.
But
those
that's
are simple
free
things.
and very inexpensive.
Free or inexpensive, and it's well within the reach of any organization to do these things.
Yeah. Wow. Great information. Now, Dave, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to, have a consultation with you and have you maybe do a little IT audit for them or something like that?
Yeah, I appreciate the ask, Britt. It's simple. Intrust-IT.com, Intrust-IT.com. You can email me at dave.hatter@intrust-IT.com, and I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, Twitter. I will say I try to share a ton of useful cybersecurity related information through things like LinkedIn and Twitter, often with some commentary about why it's important. Because, yes, I'd like to have your business, but at the same time, we do this as a business. I do this as a person because I'm interested in trying to protect our society. I'm happy to help.
Well, and the landscape's constantly changing, so people need to keep up with this, and they need to make sure that they're, it'd be a good idea for people to link in with you and kind of keep up as you hear of new things and, hear of new strategies and ways to protect yourself. That would be great, valuable information.
Yeah, I'm happy to try to help. I'm always trying to share this sort of stuff. And, it's an ever-changing, ever-shifting field. There's always something new to learn. So, I'm trying to learn as much about it as I can and help other folks as well. And, even if you work with another MSP or whatever, I can promise you there'll be something useful you could take to them and say, hey, I saw old tinfoil hat Dave talking about this over here. Is this something I should care about? So.
Great stuff. Well, you've been listening to Business Talk, brought to you by the Northern Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce. Our guest here today has been Dave Hatter with Intrust IT. And until next time.
Thanks, Britt. I appreciate it.